Thanks for joining me again for part 2 of the hatch video. This is going to sum it up. This is going to wrap up that build. The next video, like I said, will be the reveal video. So make sure you stick around for that one because it's really awesome. That said, let's get into it. Okay, what we've done here is we've cut a piece of nylon to a piece that's just a little bit larger than the hatch. The hatch structure's underneath. I got some clamps. I put the factory edge on one side. I'm going to trim those 3 sides. I'll be moving the clamp around a little bit, so. Going to do is cut the trim for the sides. Alright, what I've done here is I've taken and cut the roof to wall trim, which is that, as you can see. To fit this, I used a flexible tape measure. Measure it up, got my measurements the same on both sides, and yours should be too. So I went ahead and cut them. Now I'm going to take them over to the bench, and I'm going to put butyl tape on them, which I'm going to show you this time. Then we'll bring it back here, install it, and I'll show you how I bend it. What I'm doing here is I'm pushing the butyl tape all the way up against the one side, the side with the lower lip. So when you put the screws in, some of that will squeeze over the top, get to the other section. I'll show you. You can kind of see there. Okay, so now it's ready to go on. Making sure it's tight against the side as you go along. So. That's real easy. You just bend it as you go, one screw at a time. Bottom, make sure that gets under the trim. There you have it. It's one piece installed. Okay, so now we're going to install the trim on the sides. The way I like to do it is I'll put one end on right at the top. I'll clamp that end down. Now this is a T trim. It was a J trim, but I've used it before. This trim was donated by Vintage Trailer Works, and they cut the leg off it for me to make it a T with a 3/8 inch bottom lip, and it bends real nice and easy. And it's got a ribbed side on the other side, kind of gives you that retro look. I'm trying to give you a good, I'm sure you can see it. Okay, so I'll clamp this end with the T all the way up against the side of the hatch. Then you just kind of walk it down. Walk it down until it reaches the bottom of the hatch, and then I'm going to take the clamp and clamp it there as well. We're going to do the same to the other side. Trim. I'm going to just set it there so I can see where I need to cut this one, because I like this piece to run straight all the way down, and I'll piece this side in. Now you can miter cut it right here, or you can cut it straight across. I'm going to cut it straight across because the miter can be tricky, and then it leaves a very sharp point. Of course, a fire engine just happens to be going by when I'm recording a video. Okay, so now that that's marked, we'll cut this to width when we're done. We can take these off and go ahead and cut them, and then we'll put butyl tape on the one side, and we'll go ahead and permanently install them. Now we're just going to screw them down. What I like to do is 3 inches off the top and every 6 inches after that. Got butyl tape on the one side that's going to be on the hatch. The other side, there's nothing on it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go one at a time, each side, each side, each side. So I'll do this one, this one, back and forth until it's all the way to the bottom. What that does is keeps the file on where it needs to be. So now we need to measure for this one, get this one installed, and then we'll worry about the hinge. to install the hurricane hinge. My way may be a little controversial, but I don't like to use a great big gap or a big spacer right there. So as you can see here, I notch out the edge so the hinge sits flat on the screw surface. I did that on both sides. Now what I'm going to do is hold up the hinge, make sure it clears everything. You want it to clear the inside of the trim here, so you have to trim a little off of each end, as you can see there. So a little bit to get it to fit. Get it to fit the way it should. Okay? And then now that that is sitting flat on there, I only have an eighth of it, or about an eighth of an inch under here I've got to fill. This is an offset hinge, hurricane hinge. So what I do is I go to Lowe's and I buy an 1/8 inch piece of aluminum and I drop it in between the roof trim and, you know, in between each end of the roof trim. It's 1/8 inch by 1, so it's pretty much the same size. Then what I do, once it's under there, is I take a magic marker and I mark where each hole is going to be in the hinge and pre-drill the ones underneath, so when I run a screw it doesn't resist into the aluminum. Now I'm going to put, let's take this out of the way. So that's where that's going to live, is right on the edge. Okay, you can see I have everything's marked. You're going to put, I put butyl underneath, butyl tape underneath, butyl tape on top, and then when the hinge is on, I caulk the back line. Not with silicone, with RV ProFlex. The reason I do it this way is a good friend of mine, John, came from Louisiana to help me one time, and he's got like tens of thousands of miles on his camper, and he seen the way I was doing it, and I was doing it the way everybody else does, with a big fat spacer under there, and he showed me his, and I've been doing it that way ever since, and I haven't had any issues with it. So that's why I changed the way I did it, so it doesn't sit on top of the trim. You kind of notch the trim out to accept the hinge, and then you fill the small gap instead of a great big gap. You're just filling a small gap, and it's nice and beautiful all the way across. So I got to pre-drill these holes. I'm going to put some butyl tape on there first so I can drop the spacer in place, and then I'll put the hinge right on top of that, and we'll secure the hinge. First row of butyl tape. Now I'm going to take the hinge and the piece I pre-drilled on the bottom and set it up there, but I'll pull the hinge away. Take another roll. Butyl tape. This time I'm going to go all the way to the outside edge. You put the hinge on with your strip, you're guaranteed that your holes that you pre-drilled are going to line up. So that's why I do it that way. When you screw this down, a lot of this will squeeze out, so, or the difference between, because it's a little higher right now, but the butyl tape will squeeze out. Take your hinge, got to kind of get it right the first time, because you don't want to be peeling all this off and doing it again. Make sure nothing slipped on me. Now you just making sure it's pushed all the way back. You just fill them in. I always start in the middle, work my way out. Always have. Gonna leave the end one for now, because I gotta pre-drill that. That goes into the roof to wall trim. Well, it's in there. There's no movement on it at all. Now I'll pre-drill the holes here at the end because it goes into the roof to the wall trim. So I'll pre-drill that through the metal anyway. And then I'll sink a screw at each end too. Just sink your screws. Now all you do is you take your other side of the hinge, put it on, line up your hinge to the end, drop it down, take a pencil, and with this particular setup I needed a 1/4 inch gap. So now I'm going to take my shims, which these are 1/8 of an inch each, so 2 of them together are a 1/4, so I'm going to stick them together. I'm going to mark on the hinge where that line is. I'm going to do that on both sides, and I'm going to take and I'm going to notch it out for to accept the trim. There it is. Now it's notched. You can see it'll open and it'll close. It out. Okay, so now we go install this side of the hinge on the hatch. Okay, now we're going to get this lined up where these should be right at the edge of your ribs, so it should be pretty easy to get it in the right position. I've already laid the butyl tape down, pre-drilled this side of the hinge. Now the hinge is installed on that. Now it's just mating the two together. Much easier with 2 people, but I'm going to try it with 1. There. Let me go get some help. Okay, I had to loosen the screws in the hinge. Now it'll go. Thanks for hanging out with me, and until the reveal, build on.